Okay, hi y'all.
Hello.
The next story request.
Didn't smile.
The next story request is marriage proposal.
Well,
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time, after we had been dating for a few months, I got to take this story from the beginning, really, because we started off in a group called the 300 Club. And we were a group of young Christian adults, mostly in the military, but a few adult dependent children there. We would get together in a special little place they gave us. It was an old housing quarters that had a kitchen there. And we would get together there on different occasions, if it was Christmas time or whatever it was, and nobody was, once we didn't go home, we'd get together and we'd be a group together. And every Sunday morning, we got together in that room. The gals cooked breakfast, and after breakfast, we had Sunday school, and then we went to chapel. And we did a lot of things as a group rather than dating one-on-one. But we sort of gravitated to each other, shall we say.
Yeah.
I kind of liked him. I liked the way he did things, and he had this, nice car. And when we went places, there'd be 6 people at least crammed in that car. And I started finding my way to the middle of that front seat. And after I started showing some interest in him, he really got interested then because, he was 27, 26, 27 at that point. Most of his friends were married, had children, some of whom were already ready to go to school, and he's still single. And he didn't like being single particularly, but I hadn't come along. I used to tease him because I said, you had to wait for me to grow up. And he did. But we started dating, and things started getting a little serious. And I know at one point,
that's neat. So when you were 11 years old, how old was he?
He would have been 18, 19.
Okay, so
Yeah.
she was only 11 years old when he was 19. So he had to wait for her to grow up for a handful of years. And how many years later was that?
Well, that would have been about late 1958 when we first knew each other. Funny
Okay.
thing, he said
I was 1 year old.
I got it. Oh, forget it. One thing that I remember him telling me was the first thing he noticed about me was my legs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yippee.
Who knows? And the first time he saw me, I don't really remember him because it was my first time to get into the group, and there were so many people around. I didn't know anybody, and just starting to get acquainted with everyone. But we had a really good group of people. There were more guys than there were girls, and it didn't matter. We just all had a really good time together. But meeting his one of the first things when we moved away from that where we'd been living in old dependent quarters. Okay, they moved us into this nice big new barracks, but the floors were a mess and had to be cleaned, and it was our job to clean them. My husband came over and helped us scrub floors. And the girls were all very impressed and said, oh, you've got a good one, hang on to him. And meeting his parents for the first time, that was fun. And the funny thing is, I had to, tragically really, but I had to go home. That summer was in June, early part of June. And I had a little niece who had died and went home for her funeral. Only to find out she was buried on her mom's birthday, which was not a good thing. But anyway, I had a picture of him with me. And evidently the way I talked about him when I showed that picture to my mother, she said, that's when you're going to marry. That was before he had proposed. So she knew that. I mean, she just knew intuitively. And she thought he was heavy set, okay? Because the way he was in this picture, with in his uniform, we were sitting there, it's like his jowls were kind of down here, and his neck was in, and it looked heavy in here. And she was very surprised when she met him. He was nice and trim and thin. But she knew when she saw that picture I was going to marry him. And it was a few weeks after that he actually proposed. And I didn't realize it, but his proposal that I heard was actually the second one. Because we were sitting in the car, kind of enjoying each other's company. And evidently he whispered in my ear, and I didn't hear it. And he thought I was ignoring him. But he thought, I'm going to give it one more try, which he did. And at that point, what he said was, I want you to be my wife. And I said, that's exactly what I want. And that sealed the deal right there. But I thought it was kind of funny that I missed it the first time around. I could easily have missed him if he hadn't been persistent, but he was persistent, and I'm so glad he was, because we had 53 years together.
Wow.
Wish it could have been more, but hey, he was getting very ill and didn't want to live as an invalid, so the Lord took him home, which was a blessing. Blessing for him.
Do you remember how he said to you, I tried to ask you before? What did he say to you when he said, when?
It was a long time after that he told me that.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
What did he say? What did he say to you? Oh, by the way?
Yeah, I was like, well, it was like the deal, where even after we were engaged, and I kept praying, Lord, if he's the wrong one, take him out now, get him away from me. And we must have been married at least 20 years. When he heard me tell that story to someone, he said, look at me, he said, but I was praying the same thing. He had never told me. It's like, we both were on the same page, Lord, if it's the wrong person, take him away now. And that's that's what I've told my kids and whatever, that's what you need to pray. Lord, get them out of my life if they're the wrong one.
Right.
Because you don't want to be married to the wrong one.
But when did he say to you, oh, by the way, I already had asked you before the...
I don't remember what the time frame was, but it just came up in a conversation. I said, you never told me that. It's one of those things. He was not a big one to, be gushy or whatever, but he was a good, strong... I don't know how to put it. He was strong in a lot of ways, but he was a very sensitive person. I've seen him cry on several occasions. He was tender-hearted, loved his family dearly, but the one time things got really bad with his mother, he actually went to her and said to her, Mom, don't make me make a choice because it won't be you. She was being very nasty to me and not really nice to our children at that point. And he just had to say to her, either, you better calm down because if I have to choose, I'm going to choose my wife, my family.
And your mom was the one who never said a bitter word to
my mom would not give you a piece of advice if you begged her. She would say, it's your bed, you lie on it. You make the decision. I don't want to be the one to say, do this or do that, and then it turns out wrong. It's your life, your decision, you do it. She never was critical. All of her sons-in-laws and her daughter-in-laws thought she was great. Every one of them. But she had such a horrible mother-in-law herself. She was determined to be a good one.
Wow.
But she just was a good kind of person. So, like I said, and my husband was just the sweetest thing in the world, would do anything for you. And my parents realized that and knew I had a great thing. And we did have a nice formal wedding at the chapel at Westover Air Force Base. There had been one wedding in the new chapel before ours, but it was a very informal sort of thing. We actually had a formal wedding. My mother did
Westover Air Force Base? Where is that?
Massachusetts.
Okay.
In Massachusetts. And my mother did come up. She was there for the wedding. My dad did not come. And, it was so many years later, probably less than maybe a year before my father died, he said to me, he said, that's the one thing I've always regretted, that I did not come for your wedding and be there to give you away. So, he realized, none of his other children had had that type of wedding. I don't think any of them had a marriage as good as mine. And, he said, I'm sorry I missed that. So he kind of mellowed in his old age. He was kind of rough and gruff, but he had a tough growing up time with both parents who were very mean and vindictive and just not nice people to be around. I didn't know his father was that bad because I didn't see that much of him until talking to my half-aunts and uncles years later about how awful he had been about beating them and, abusing them and not taking care of them. So, my dad did not have any role models, when he was growing up. He didn't know how to be a good dad. He learned as a grandfather what it was like to enjoy the children. And he did enjoy them very much.
See.
Yeah. But when all you've ever known is harshness and bitterness, you don't know how to show love. If it's never been shown to you, you don't really know how to show it. And that's what my father grew up with.
I see. Well, I'll tell you what. Lexi and Deontay,
yeah.
You have an amazing marriage, and you are amazing people, and your future is going to be so awesome, and we're on the team with you.
Just keep God there with you all the time, and you always ask yourself, what would God want me to do in this situation? And the other thing you do is what my husband and I did, whatever he wanted, I wanted to make him happy. And if at all possible, I would do things the way he wanted them. He was the same way toward me. If there was something I wanted, he'd say, well, we'll find a way to do it. If that's what you want, we'll find a way to do it. And, and we always lived within our means. That's another thing. You get yourself into debt. That's for so many arguments. I've heard more people tell me that they get along fine except when they start talking about money, and everybody wants to spend money on this, that, and the other that they don't need. They get into debt, and then they start arguing and having problems. So live within your means, love each other, love God most, and you'll do great.
And we're with you.
Absolutely.
It's not easy getting started, and both of you guys have had rough daddyhoods with no daddy around and a lot of rough stuff around you. And guess what? God knows that, and He wants to come in and help you guys out.
He wants to be that big daddy to both of you that you can look to and, ask Him for guidance in what you need to do and look to His Word.
Yeah, listen to Big Daddy on the inside.
Yeah.
Because He wants to talk to you straight.
And the more time you spend in His Word, the more you're going to grow closer and closer and closer to Him and see what His will is for your life.
Yeah, you know what? Grab Romans 12, starting in verse 9. Lex, you remember when we did that around the table? Every single one of those one-liners. Love must be sincere. Do
Right.
not attack evil with evil, but attack evil with good and make it go away.
Yes.
Romans 12, 9 to the end is such a great list of one-liners. You can actually memorize it together, write it, and stick it on the wall. Yeah. Anyhow, we're with you.
All right. Love you.
There's the proposal story, the marriage proposal story.